Imagine you're standing in the middle of your living room, eyeing that blank wall and wondering if it's finally time to go big, like, really big, with a TV that makes movie night feel like a theater and gaming look like you're inside the game. You've probably scrolled through a dozen specs pages, seen the hype about 100-inch panels and 4K mini-LED, and now you're stuck wondering whether you'll end up with a masterpiece or a giant paperweight. That hesitation is real, especially when you're about to drop a few $1,000s on a screen that'll dominate the room. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Hisense 100-inch E7 Cinema series is a newcomer in the monster TV crowd, and it tries to justify its size with a bundle of technology: Hi-QLED mini-LED backlighting, a native 144Hz refresh rate for gaming, Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, AI-driven picture processing, and even a built-in subwoofer. On paper, it sounds like a honest-op solution for anyone who wants a home theater feel without buying a separate sound system. But let's break down what that actually means once you plug it in, mount it, and start using it day to day. First off, the sheer size. A 100-inch diagonal screen translates to roughly an 87-inch width, so you need a wall that can handle that footprint and a viewing distance of at least 8 to 10 feet for a comfortable picture. If your couch is closer than that, you'll notice the pixel grid even with the 4K resolution, and the immersive effect drops off. In larger living rooms, the E7 really shines. The extra screen real estate makes a 4K movie feel almost three-dimensional, especially when you pair it with Dolby Vision's dynamic metadata. The mini-LED array gives the panel a bright, punchy look that can handle sunlit rooms better than a standard edge-lit LED. I tried it in a bright family room with large windows, and the white stayed crisp without any noticeable blooming around bright objects, which is a common complaint on older LED TVs. The AI picture engine is another selling point that the marketing team loves to brag about. In practice, it's a set of algorithms that analyze the incoming video and tweak contrast, color volume, and local dimming on the fly. For streaming services like Netflix or Disney+, where content is already HDR encoded, the AI tends to be subtle. You get a slightly richer color palette and a bit more depth in shadows, but nothing that feels overprocessed. The real benefit appears when you're watching SDR content or older Blu-rays. The AI lifts those sources to look more like what you'd see on a modern HDR display, without turning the picture into a neon nightmare. That's a practical win for anyone who still has a library of non-HDR movies. Now, let's talk about motion handling, because the 144Hz native refresh rate is the headline claim for gamers. Most consoles output at 60 Hz, and many PC games sit at 60 or 120 Hz. The E7 can accept a 144Hz signal without having to interpolate, which means you get a smoother look when the source supports it. For PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series X titles that push 120 Hz, the TV delivers the extra frames cleanly, and the AI smooth motion with MEMC, motion estimation, motion compensation, helps reduce judder in lower framerate content like sports broadcasts. In my own testing with a fast-moving racing game, the image stayed stable and there was no noticeable input lag, but I did notice a slight softening of fine textures at the highest motion settings, a trade-off you'll see on any TV that uses frame interpolation. If you're a competitive gamer who needs razor-thin latency, you might still prefer a dedicated gaming monitor, but for couch gaming and occasional esports viewing, the E7's native 144Hz is more than enough. Sound is often the forgotten piece of the home theater puzzle, and Hisense decided to embed a subwoofer right into the panel. It's not a full-blown home theater system, but the built-in bass does add a tactile dimension to movies and games that you don't get from the tiny speakers in most thin TVs. In a darkened room, the sub gave enough low-frequency rumble during action scenes to make you feel the impact without turning the volume up to the point of distortion. However, the overall soundstage still feels narrow. Dialogue can get a bit muffled under heavy bass, and you'll quickly notice that the left-right separation isn't as precise as a separate soundbar or a 2.1 speaker setup. So if you're after an immersive Dolby Atmos experience, treat the built-in sub as a nice bonus and plan on adding external speakers for the full effect. One practical concern that pops up with a TV this large is the installation process. The E7 is a hefty piece of metal and glass, and while Hisense supplies a VESA-compatible mounting pattern, you'll need a solid wall mount rated for at least 150 kilograms. The packaging includes a wall mounting kit, but the instructions assume a certain level of DIY comfort. If you're not comfortable drilling into studs or using a professional installer, you could end up with a crooked screen or, worse, a